1908, young William Hayes stood proudly beside his father in front of their modest brick home in rural Pennsylvania. The boy's small hand clutched his father's, his eyes bright, his lips curved in an innocent, carefree smile. The photograph was meant to be simple, a keepsake, a memory of a quiet moment between father and son, a fragment of life frozen in time. For nearly 90 years, it remained just that, a cherished family relic tucked away in an album, yellowing at the edges but safe, ordinary, familiar. Then, in 1998, the Hayes family restored the old glass plate, scanning it for preservation. That's when the impossible appeared. William's shadow, dark and sharply defined, did not match the angle of the sunlight. It stretched in a direction that no natural light could produce. It moved against the laws of physics, as if another presence had been there, silent, unseen, captured only in shadow. A photograph meant to preserve memory had become a mystery. In that quiet Pennsylvania yard, in that frozen moment of 1908, reality itself seemed to bend. Something unexplainable had imprinted itself onto the film, waiting decades to be noticed. The Hayes family lived a humble, quiet life in rural Pennsylvania. Thomas Hayes, the father, was a carpenter, known throughout the village for his steady hands, kind heart, and unshakable patience. He had built much of their modest brick home himself, along with furniture that would last generations. His son, William, was curious and lively, often following his father through the garden, helping sweep sawdust from the workshop, or racing barefoot through sunlit fields behind the house. Life was simple, grounded, and predictable. Moments of joy, small but meaningful, framed by the endless rhythm of days spent working, playing, and learning. In 1908, photographs were rare treasures. Each image was deliberate, taken with care, and developed slowly, capturing only what the photographer could arrange and what the light would reveal. The portrait of Thomas and William was ordinary at first glance. The two standing proud on the porch, sunlight falling over their faces, shadows stretching naturally across the wooden steps. It was a quiet homage to family, a record of life, love, and continuity. Neighbors would have seen nothing strange, just a father and son, smiling at the world, frozen in time. But nearly 90 years later, when the original glass plate was cleaned, scanned, and digitally enhanced, the Hayes family and photographic experts noticed something impossible. William's shadow did not follow the rules of light. It extended at an angle that no natural source could produce. The lines of the shadow contradicted physics, bending reality in subtle but undeniable ways. What had once been a simple keepsake, a memento of joy, now raised questions that could not be answered. Had someone, or something, stood there in 1908, invisible to the eye, captured only in the strange geometry of the boy's shadow? The portrait, long treasured as a record of life, had become a riddle. A single image, a single moment, now whispered of mysteries that defied explanation, a silent echo of the impossible hidden in the ordinary. Life in the Hayes household was quiet, measured and filled with small rhythms that gave each day a comforting predictability. Thomas Hayes spent long hours in his workshop, the scent of sawdust thick in the air as he carefully measured, sanded, and assembled each piece of furniture. Every hammer strike and plane stroke was deliberate, a testament to his meticulous craftsmanship and dedication to his family's well-being. Young William often lingered at the doorway, watching his father work with fascination, occasionally fetching tools or sweeping up stray shavings. Their bond was evident in these ordinary gestures, a shared glance, a gentle correction, a pat on the shoulder. William's days outside the workshop were equally structured. He attended the small local school, returning home to help tend the vegetable garden or care for the chickens roaming the yard. In the late afternoons, he played with neighborhood children, chasing each other through sun-dappled fields or rolling along the grass, laughter ringing clear in the quiet village. Evenings were simple but warm. The family gathered for dinner, sharing stories of the day, or sat by the fire as Thomas read aloud from well-worn books. Life was steady, predictable, and safe. The 1908 photograph captured one of these ordinary afternoons. William stood with a wide, unself-conscious smile, his small hand clasped in his father's firm grip. Sunlight streamed across their faces, illuminating the bond between them, while shadows stretched across the wooden porch steps. At first glance, it was nothing more than a typical family portrait, proof of survival, love, and continuity in a world slowly recovering from the upheavals of the previous decades. For nearly 90 years, the image remained tucked into the family album, cherished but unremarkable. William grew up, left home, married, and raised his own children. The photograph faded, colors muted by time, but its presence persisted as a link to a simpler past. Then, in the late 1990s, William's granddaughter decided to restore and digitize the old family prints. When she studied the 1908 portrait, her eyes froze on a detail no one had noticed before. William's shadow, dark, sharp, impossibly angled, did not align with the sunlight. No tree, no object, no light source could have cast it. It was as if someone or something stood there, unseen by the lens, captured only in the shape of the boy's elongated shadow. The photograph, once a symbol of ordinary life, now hinted at something extraordinary. It was no longer just a memory. It was a window, a moment in which reality itself seemed to bend, whispering of a mystery hidden in plain sight. After the initial shock, the Hayes family sought answers. They reached out to local historians, photographic archivists, and experts in early 20th century camera technology. Each examination confirmed the same unsettling truth. The photograph was authentic. The grain, chemical composition, and development techniques all aligned perfectly with the year 1908. There was no tampering, no double exposure, no manipulation of any kind. The shadow, impossibly angled, was not a trick of light or lens, it was real. Experts combed the surrounding details. The angle of the sunlight, the length and direction of Thomas Hayes' own shadow, the placement of the house and garden, all matched perfectly with the natural environment. And yet the boy's shadow defied physics. It did not belong to William, nor did it correspond to any known object in the yard. Some theorists speculated wildly. Could it be a reflection of someone from the future? A temporal echo, a figure yet to be born, inadvertently captured in the glass plate. Others whispered of residual energy, the notion that certain moments, imbued with emotion or significance, might leave traces that the camera could perceive, even decades before their existence. As the anomaly spread through the family, the photograph became more than a simple keepsake. It became an obsession. William's grandchildren examined it endlessly, comparing prints, studying angles, measuring light. Some reported subtle, impossible changes. The shadow seemed to tilt slightly with each viewing, creeping closer to the boy's small feet. Others swore it appeared to shift depending on the angle of their gaze, as though alive, responding to the observer. The ordinary yard, the familiar brick home, the smiling child all became secondary to the dark, impossible presence embedded in that simple shadow. What had begun as a cherished family memory now carried a quiet terror. It was no longer just a moment frozen in time. It was a window into something larger, a fragment of the impossible inserted into the everyday. The photograph seemed to interact with those who studied it, teasing their perception, testing their understanding of reality. And the Hayes family, guardians of this enigma, could only watch as the image refused to remain static, insisting that what it captured, what it truly revealed, was far beyond comprehension. In that small Pennsylvania yard, sunlight and shadow had combined to preserve not only a boy and his father, but a mystery that would outlive them both. After the disturbances and consultations, the Hayes family sought definitive answers. Scientific analysis was undertaken, with experts in early photography and chemical preservation examining the original glass plate. Every test confirmed its authenticity. The composition of the emulsion, the grain pattern, even the subtle imperfections in the developing process, all aligned perfectly with 1908 standards. No modern intervention, no tampering, no digital alteration, just the original photograph preserved through decades, as it had been captured over 90 years ago. The angle of the sunlight, measured against the orientation of the porch and the time of day, matched historical records. Shadows from the father, the house, and nearby objects aligned flawlessly. Even reflections in William's eyes, captured in minute detail, corresponded with the known light conditions. Everything about the image screamed of historical accuracy. Yet the boy's shadow refused to obey these rules. It remained impossibly angled, pointing in a direction no natural light could produce. It was dark, sharp, undeniable, a silent anomaly embedded within a perfectly ordinary scene. Historians and physicists speculated. Some proposed it was a glimpse of the future, an echo of a person or event yet to exist, somehow imprinted on the photographic medium. Others whispered of parallel timelines, intersecting ever so briefly, leaving a fragment of reality in the wrong century. A few dared to suggest that the photograph captured not just light, but a distortion in the very fabric of reality, a moment when ordinary laws ceased to apply. For the Hayes family, the photograph became more than a keepsake. It became a silent warning. Even in the simplest moments, the ordinary world might conceal extraordinary truths. What looked like a smiling boy and a proud father was now a doorway into questions with no answers. Every glance at the image carried unease, a quiet dread that someone or something lurked beyond comprehension. Visitors to archives where the image was displayed reported an odd sensation, a weight in the room, a presence unseen, watching from just beyond the frame. Some said the shadow seemed to move ever so slightly, tilting or stretching, depending on the angle of observation. Others claimed a subtle awareness, as if the figure knew it was being scrutinized. The Hayes family watched quietly, understanding that this was no ordinary memory frozen in time. And the shadow, it followed those who studied it. Not just on the glass, but in their minds, haunting their perception of reality. What had begun as a simple family photograph had become a persistent enigma, a fragment of impossibility embedded in the light of 1908, refusing to yield to explanation. By the late 1990s, the Hayes family noticed more than just the impossibly angled shadow in the restored photograph. Subtle anomalies began appearing elsewhere in their collections. Letters from William's youth seemed to contain ink smudges forming shapes that weren't there before. Family heirlooms appeared scratched or shifted slightly, and even other old photographs hinted at distortions, as if reality itself had left traces across time. Each anomaly was minor, almost imperceptible, yet the cumulative effect was unsettling. Photographic experts and historians confirmed that the shadow in the 1908 portrait could not be explained by ordinary means. There were no hidden lights, no reflective surfaces, no errors in development. The shadow's angle was entirely inconsistent with the position of the sun. It did not belong to William, Thomas, or any object in the yard. It was simply there, as if another presence had been captured by the camera in a moment invisible to the naked eye. More chilling, some observers reported phenomena that seemed to defy reason. Those who stared too long at the shadow claimed it subtly shifted, tilting ever so slightly, as if acknowledging their gaze. Others saw the faint outline of a head turn, or a movement of a foot stepping forward, imperceptible at first, but undeniable upon closer inspection. The photograph, simple and unassuming, had transformed into something alive, a conduit bridging decades, connecting the ordinary past with something beyond comprehension. Family members described the sensation vividly. When Eleanor Hayes first examined the image in detail, she felt a presence in the room, a weight of recognition pressing against the edges of perception. It was as if William, Thomas, and the impossible figure in the shadow all existed simultaneously, aware of being observed. The room seemed colder, quieter, and the world outside receded as if time itself bent toward that single impossible moment frozen on glass. In this sense, the photograph was no longer merely an artifact of memory. It had become a witness, an observer of the passage of years, capturing not just light and form, but the echo of something that should not exist. It documented the ordinary while secretly recording the impossible. For the Hayes family, and anyone who dared study it, the shadow became a reminder. Some moments refused to be contained, some presences refused to be ignored, and some photographs carry a truth that transcends the limits of reality. And in that dark, unnerving corner of 1908, the shadow waited, silent, impossible, eternal, watching all who dared to look. The Hayes family took great care to preserve the photograph, treating it as both a treasured keepsake and a mysterious relic. For William Hayes, the boy in the photograph, life had been long and peaceful. He grew up, married, and raised his own children, passing along stories of his quiet childhood and hard-working father. Yet no matter how ordinary the rest of his life seemed, the photograph remained a silent, haunting presence, a bridge between eras, a frozen moment that refused to yield all its secrets. When family members or researchers viewed the image, they often reported an unsettling sensation, a chill running down their spine as though the room itself had grown colder. Some spoke of whispers, indistinct murmurs that seemed to echo from the porch where William and his father once stood. Others claimed they could feel subtle shifts in the air, a faint sense of movement that shouldn't have been possible in a still photograph. Observers swore that under certain light, the impossible shadow appeared to tilt, as if acknowledging their presence. Some felt the glint of invisible metal, a shimmer catching their eye in a corner of the image. Footsteps seemed to fall across the wooden porch, though the room was empty. The sensation was fleeting, almost imperceptible, yet it left a lasting impression. Those who studied the photograph closely said it was as if time itself had been captured within the frame, bending, stretching, and reaching out to those who dared to look. The Hayes family began to understand that this was more than a simple portrait. It was no longer just a memory of an afternoon in 1908. It had become a puzzle of reality itself. The ordinary family moment had transformed into a window into something beyond comprehension. The photograph recorded not only the boy and his father, but the impossible shadow, a fragment of something unseen, a presence that defied the rules of time. Even after decades, the image refused to remain in the past. It moved subtly, waited patiently, and watched silently. Scholars, historians, and casual viewers alike left the archive with an uneasy sense that the photograph had more to reveal than anyone could perceive in a single glance. For the Hayes family, and anyone who studies it, the photograph is both a reminder and a warning. Some moments cannot be contained. Some presences cannot be ignored, and some images refuse to remain still. In the quiet Pennsylvania yard, beneath the sunlit steps and the ordinary porch, the shadow waits, timeless, impossible, eternal. Some photographs are meant to preserve memory, capturing smiles, moments, and the quiet beauty of ordinary life. But some photographs reveal the impossible. In 1908, a father and son posed for a simple portrait outside their Pennsylvania home. Sunlight danced across the porch, their faces bright, hands clasped in a gesture of trust and love. For decades, it seemed ordinary, just a memory frozen in time. But beneath the surface, in the boy's shadow, something impossible endured. A shadow that defied physics, that belonged to no one present, stretching at angles no sunlight could create, as if recording a presence unseen. When the photograph was restored, decades later, experts could not explain it. The shadow remained, dark and distinct, a silent witness to a moment that was never truly ordinary. For the Hayes family, it became more than a keepsake. It was a window into the impossible, a fragment of reality that refused to be contained by time. Look closely at old photographs. Sometimes the light carries more than memory. Sometimes it carries echoes of events that should never have been, glimpses of people or moments that exist outside the rules of our world. Some images do not merely show the past. They whisper across time, hinting at the secrets we are not meant to see. And as always, the truth was never buried. It was only developed. This is Truth Uncaged. Subscribe, stay curious, and remember, some images don't just record history. They watch, they wait, and they speak across generations.